Hello, everyone. Welcome to Durrett's Take. It's been a very eventful weekend with the NFL draft. And now with the draft being over, I wanted to give out my grades for each of the teams. And just remember that I know there's undrafted free agent signings and stuff like that. But I'm focusing on just the draft here. And for this podcast, I'm going to go over the teams in the AFC. Um, But before I get started, I do want to say that most of the teams did an excellent job with the draft. Like, I was thinking, okay, are there just so many good players this draft that's hard to kind of mess it up, or are teams just all of a sudden really good at drafting That's what I was kind of like debating against, just because I only have 7 teams, below a C minus, so it's just like there's a lot of good teams that drafted pretty well. But now let's start off with the AFC East. The reigning division winners, Buffalo. I actually, this may come as a shock to you, but I have Buffalo as getting a D, and here's why. I think Rousseau is one of those, boom or bust prospects. I didn't like the pick. I actually like their second round pick, who's a defensive end from Wake Forest, Basham Jr., more than the Rousseau pick. Um, and I do like their later round selections. Like they got a safety from Pitt, Hamlin, and wide receiver Stevenson for Houston. And they also addressed their own line, which is good. But they didn't get any like big name tackles though, so I'm not sure how the 2 tackles they did get will work out. Coming from very small schools, but then also um, I noticed that they did not get a running back, which kind of puzzled me because like Moss and Singletary are both at this point don't look like number one backs per se. But I guess with the two tackles that Buffalo drafted, I guess they're just putting their chips in on that offensive line and say, okay, if we can fix the offensive line, then they'll look like number one running backs, so don't have to draft one. But if those running backs still underperform a little bit, then you'll see Buffalo drafting one in the high rounds next year. And I'm almost surprised that Buffalo didn't do that good because their GM is really good, and we respect him a lot. But yeah, this is not a good draft for him. Miami, I'll give a B. A lot of people are going to debate, Waddle versus Smith, but I think despite coming off the big injury, I think Waddle has a higher upside. Um, and then drafting Phillips at 18, I didn't care for, especially with this big medical history. That was a risk. I know he needs someone to replace Conway, but maybe the linebacker for Notre Dame. To my surprise, that failed in the second round. Maybe he would have been a good option there. Um, I like their tight end acquisition though. Even though they already got a tight end, 'cause, Bill Belichick has to have a two tight end system, so that's what Brian Flores is trying to do. Um, the other picks that I had questions on, especially I had questions on both of their seventh round selections. But at least now Miami has equipped, Tua with more weapons, and there's no more excuses there. New England I get a C, so um, and here's why they got C. So like for the most part, I didn't like the Mac Jones because I don't believe in Mac Jones, but like other than that, it's like I liked his selections. He was able to give Barmore in the second round for a steal. He was able to give Ronnie Perkins from Oklahoma, stuff like that. But he got good players. It was at positions where they didn't need to draft one. Like they don't need something on defensive line. They got enough defensive players. What they need is another high time weapon on offense, like a wide receiver or something or like maybe a corner to replace Stephon Gilmore if they trade him or something like that, or safety to replace Chung. Like that's who they needed, but that's who they didn't go after. So the fact that they got some good plays, gives them a passing grade C, but they didn't do anything more to like help the team that much. That's why they get C. The Jets, I give them a B, and here's why. For me, I like Zach Wilson. I know he has the potential bust, but I like the direction the Jets are heading right now, and I love their first 5 picks. Getting trading up to get Elijah Vertelger, that was worth it. Getting Elijah Moore, was good, and getting Michael Carter in the fourth round was good, and I like the first safety that they got in Sherwood's good. And then they did get some other safeties and cornerbacks, but the later round selections that were question marks, especially when you draft three safeties. Like, yeah, Marcus May, there's one safety. You don't really need to draft three safeties. Like, that's a little rich for me, especially since the other two that you drafted are questionable. So, I mean, Robert Saleh knows defense. We'll see if he ends up being right or not, but that's the reason why I didn't give them, a full A, but they got a B. They did a pretty good job. Pittsburgh, they got a B as well. I liked most of their picks. I love Najee Harris. The reason why they didn't get an A though is because they only drafted one offensive lineman, and it's like they needed more than one offensive lineman in this draft. So that's the reason why they didn't get an A. Baltimore, I give them a B minus. For starters, I love they got two wide receivers. That's what they need, and they're both good wide receivers. I think they both can make an impact. And I also like some of the other picks. But while they saw the wide receiver issue, they didn't get a replacement for their tackle that they traded to the Chiefs from Orlando Brown. They got a guard from Georgia and Cleveland, but it's like, is that guard going to move the tackle? Is someone on the team currently right now going to move to that left tackle spot? I mean, if so, I guess it's fine. But I mean, if not, then that's kind of a questionable decision right there. That's why I give them a B minus. Cleveland, so they are the one team that gets an official A plus. I just love their draft. Greg Newsome falls to them at corner, which is a good get. And then the Notre Dame linebacker, Jeremiah Wusu, falls to them at 52nd, which I thought was so impressive. And they get the fastest wide receiver in the draft. Oh, they get two, top two fast wide receivers in the draft. And helping them, the punt kick return game, and a potential replacement, for Beckham Jr. if he gets traded. And then they both the O-line deal like that. So I just loved what they did in the draft. Cincinnati, I give them a B minus. I know Jamar Chase worked well with Burrow in the past. He's a good receiver. There's no disputing that. But I think getting Sewell was the way to go there. They did get a tackle in the second round, but the problem is that was a reach. And then the future picks were helping the D line, which is good because they were not only did they have a bad line, they had a pretty bad D line as well. But it's just like, and they got a kicker from Florida, which was needed. But then the rest of the picks, I was just thinking, it's like, man, getting that Sewell guy would have been the best way to go. So that's why I don't give them an A, and they have a B minus. Now for the AFC South, Tennessee, I give them a D plus. I know the quarterback from Virginia Tech has a lot of talent, but I'm sorry, 2 back surgeries recently is a major red flag for me. I wouldn't draft him with that. Ask Romo and the Cowboys how he was after multiple back surgeries. The answer, not good. They got two. They got 2 wide receivers. Hopefully one of them replace Corey Davis. Go to the Jets. But the problem is, I don't like either receiver. And this is a deep wide receiver class. It should be a lot harder to mess up. Now I do like some of their defensive players that they've drafted in late rounds, like linebacker for Georgia, defensive end for Pittsburgh, and there's a cornerback from Washington. So for that all, it makes for them for not completely failing, but I'm not going to necessarily give them, the average C, because they're assuming a risk and too many bad picks at the beginning. Indianapolis. Now this may come as a shock to you, but I also give them a D, and here's why. Kwity Paye was a steal, and I like that pick in the first round. So that's why I'm not giving them an F. But all the other moves for Indy in the rest of the rounds, they didn't have a lot of picks, but the rest of the moves that they made were all questionable. I like Sam Ellinger, but they already got Jacob Eason from last year in the draft, so unless Ellinger fills the Taysom Hill type of role, he won't be playing much. And then the rest of their picks in general are just kind of questionable. It's like, was that really the best defensive end? Or was that really the best cornerback or whatever? It's just like, I know I wasn't really impressed. And I know Chris Ballard is a very good GM, but besides that first pick, that was not that good. Houston, they're my one team who gets a complete F. First of all, with all the needs you have and the limited amount of picks you have, the fact that you use your first pick in the third round on a quarterback Mills as the first pick, it's like some scouts like him, but it's like I think he's a career backup in my opinion. You already got Tyrod Taylor in the offseason. You didn't need to go get Sims right now. If Tyrod Taylor sucks in the next year, you would have a high draft pick. You could have got a higher, better quarterback next year if you would have just waited. And then the rest of their choices and selections were questionable. But and I did like one pick that he got linebacker from TC, but like other than that, like they just had a really bad year. But which makes sense because they're going to be the worst team again next year, like I predicted. Jacksonville, I give a B plus. As expected, for the most part, Meyer had a good draft. I mostly liked all their picks. There's the seventh rounder I was puzzled at, and the only other problem I had was the ETN pick. So I know him and Lawrence together were magic, but first of all, you already have a good running back, and even if you claim you want to have more depth, you could have got ETN with your first pick in the second round. He still would have been there. So you overdrafted him when he could have gotten like the best player available at 25th type of thing. And then also, the reason why they don't get full A is because they didn't get like a top 10 or 15 wide receiver in this class, which I think would have been useful for Trevor Lawrence there. So that's my knock on that. But again, like the players that they drafted itself are good, most of them are good players. So good job, Meyer. Now for the Kansas City, I'd give them an A minus. The only questionable pick I have was the defensive end from Florida State. Not because they didn't need one, they do, but I just don't think of that guy's going to particularly work out or not. They grabbed two offensive linemen. Both of them should have gone at a point earlier than when the Chiefs grabbed them, especially Trey Smith, who fell so far. So those are both good gets for them. They got the Clemson wide receiver Powell, who's kind of underrated in my opinion, to bolster to that. And then they got a tight end, to back up Kelsey. And then their first selection, they got a linebacker from Missouri. Elijah, I thought was pretty good. I like that guy. So the only thing that prevented the Chiefs from getting a perfect grade is I thought they should have got a cornerback and maybe even a safety because I thought their secondary besides Tyrann Matthew, their secondary at best is kind of mediocre or average, especially something in the Super Bowl. So I would have gone at least one position there, but they didn't do that. But oh well. Las Vegas, I give them a D. So we all know that drafting offensive tackle Alex Leatherwood from Bama was too high. I didn't like some of the other picks. The only bright spot, though, was that they got three safeties, and one that was the TCU safety that was high on that fell pretty far in the second round. So now you don't have to worry about the safety position anymore, but I feel like you still got other positions that are going to need to be addressed at some point. Next, to get the LA Chargers, I give them an A. Chargers had a good few days there. Now the last 2-3 picks they started getting 6-7 round kind of questionable, but other than that, I liked all their picks. Getting Slater is good for the online. And then the cornerback, Asante Jr. from Florida State fell to them in the second round. We're surprised they get a nice wide receiver in the third round, so they have basically three good wide receivers there. And then they got a good tight end, to back up Jared Cook. Like I said, the later round picks is what prevented them from getting a perfect A plus, but I like their picks there. And then last but not least, Denver. Denver, I also give an A. New GM Pat did an excellent job. Not much to dispute over. Some thought they should have grabbed Fields, but I like not doing that just because if you can trade for Aaron Rodgers, that's the way to go there. If you miss on him, then I think Denver would be a high pick again next year, so you can get him then. So again, I loved what Denver did in the draft. That's my podcast today. Again, for my next video, I'll go over my thoughts of the NFC teams and give them their grades. Thank you very much for listening to my podcast today. Please subscribe to my channel and tell everyone about me. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.